Are you struggling with balancing in ballet? Well, you're in luck because today I'm going to share 6 actionable tips that are actually going to make you start balancing like a pro. Tip number 1, for balancing, you need to think up and over. So what I see very often with people trying to balance is that they're thinking up and about pulling up to the point where their head almost starts tilting towards the back. If that happens, however, then as you know, the head is heavy. Then all of us is going to start tilting towards the back. Our ribs are probably going to flare, so we're going to lose the proper posture as well. So instead, what I would advise you to think about is, yes, we do need to be pulling up. So always picture that there is a string or something like right at the top of your head and someone is pulling you up by that string. But at the same time, not to have this happening, we got to think over. So the up comes from here, but the over is going to come from here, from your sternum. So I always tell my students, think that you're doing the up motion, take a little breath in, because once you take that small breath in, you're almost instantly going to realize that this part of your chest is the one that is over. So imagine that you're standing on a balcony and you're leaning like over the railing of the balcony. This is the feeling that we want to have. So remember for next time, up from the top of your head and over from your sternum and from your chest at the same time. Tip number 2 is the correct muscle engagement. What I've seen with a lot of beginners is that they're trying to balance, and obviously it's difficult to start with for them to think about multiple things at the same time. So they tend to fixate on the fact that, oh, I need to hold this balance, and they forget that there are muscles that are participating in the action of holding that balance. So first of all, whether you're balancing on 2 legs or on 1 leg, I want you to feel like your quads are lengthening. So you're not just activating your quad and kind of like squashing it down like this with a lot of pressure. You're doing this kind of lengthening action instead. The second thing is that because we're in ballet, we're most likely going to be balancing in turnout. The glutes massively participate in sustaining your turnout. So the glutes need to be activated. Once again, I don't want you to squeeze your glutes to the point where you're shaking because there's so much pressure in your body, but you need to lightly squeeze them, like think that there's a coin or something in between your booty cheeks and you're trying to like press it together, yeah? And now it is our upper body posture, because as you know, in ballet, we're supposed to, the end goal is that we can do whatever we want with our legs without compromising the posture in the upper body. So things like arching or things like slouching are very common when it comes to beginners in ballet. So what we need to aim for with everything is that neutral line of the back, yeah? So to ensure that our ribs are not flared out, because then we will be arching, and then our glutes are most likely also not going to be engaged because our booty and our pelvis is going to start sticking backwards a little bit. So always try to make sure that your ribs are stacked right on top of your pelvis. That creates that nice neutral line in the back, and then it's more likely that your pelvis will also be in that neutral line instead of tilting backwards, and you will actually be able to engage the glutes as we spoke about before. So don't forget, don't balance mindlessly. Always do everything and try to think about what muscles am I using to be able to do this movement or this action nicely, securely, and well. Tip number 3, transferring your weight onto the supporting side without sinking into the supporting side. Obviously, this is the case when we're balancing on 1 leg. It's different if we're balancing on 2 legs, yeah? But if we're balancing on 1 leg, we have to remember that there is a big difference between the 1 leg and the 2 legs. If I balance on 2 legs, my weight is going to be evenly distributed between the two legs. As soon as I go onto the one leg, I have to shift my body weight onto that one leg. Hence why that leg is called the supporting leg, the supporting side. Yeah, there is a really good test for you to understand the principles of that and why it's necessary. If you were just to stand in a parallel position with your feet about shoulder width apart, and if I told you to lift one leg off the ground, if you don't shift your hips and your weight onto the one leg that becomes the supporting leg, you probably won't be able to do that motion. You have to shift that weight. And this is something that I've discovered working with beginners, that is a very difficult thing for them to understand, because we get the two extremes. We get them trying to keep their hips super square and not shift at all, because they think that ballet is all about the squareness and the square hips, and then the balances simply are not going to work because the weight shift needs to be there. Or the second extreme is that they do the weight shift, but then they start sinking in to the supporting leg. So like in ballet, we say you're sitting on your supporting side, right? Once again, we find that glute activation there, and you're gonna feel that as soon as you activate that glute, all of a sudden, as if someone pricked you, like in the glute area here, it's going to activate, and then the front of your hip is going to start lengthening as well. So instead of this sitting motion, we will get a tip number 4, a solid connection between your supporting foot and the floor, so the ground. This is for both when you're balancing on flat or if you're balancing on demi-point. So what I found that works really well with my beginner students is when I tell them to almost picture that their supporting foot that they're balancing on is drilling into the floor, because then we establish that strong connection with the floor. And it's the same on demi-point, yeah? Because if you're just kind of there, again, it might work, it might not work. But with everything in ballet, when your foot like brushes from the ground to go up, when you're jumping to go up, it's always about that connection with the ground, with the floor. So next time that you're balancing, whether on flat or on demi-point, try to picture the same thing, that your foot or your toes, if you're on demi-point, are literally pushing and almost like drilling a hole into the ground. But meanwhile, you are doing what we discussed before, from your quads, from the top of your hip, from the top of your head, you are having that up and over feeling. So we get this motion of what I speak about a lot, which is opposition. So one part of you is doing this kind of motion, which is the up and the over motion, and then whatever you're balancing on is doing the opposite of that. So that is pushing into the ground. So we have these two opposite forces. One is going up and the other one is going down. And that concept of opposition is super important in ballet. It comes into play in many, many, many areas. But here, in terms of the balances, it's definitely something that you should try out. Tip number 5, check your foot alignment on your supporting foot. So if you're on flat, we either start rolling the foot and it's going too much towards the big toe, or it's the opposite of that. The foot is rolling and it's going, all the weight is going too much towards the pinky toe. And it's the same on demi-point. Too much weight on the big toe is a kind of position that even professionals do very often, because actually, aesthetically, it looks nice. It looks nice because it has that kind of winging shape that we want to see in ballet. But it's not sustainable whatsoever. You're going to put immense pressure on your big toe and on your bunion, and that is not going to end well. I can tell you that from my own experiences, yeah? And on the contrary, if too much weight is going towards the pinky toe, on demi-point especially, that is a very compromised position, because it's very easy from that position of something to go like, you know, when we sprain our ankle. So we don't want to have either one of those extremes. You want to be somewhere in between. If you have a chance to work with a mirror, which I hope that you do, then always when you're balancing and before you've let go of the bar, because obviously it's harder to turn your head towards the mirror if you're already balancing with two arms in first or third position, whatever. But if you're still holding on to the bar, check, look in the mirror. What is my supporting leg in terms of the foot alignment doing? Is it going too far this way? Is it going too far that way? And if it is, then put it back right to the middle. That is the most stable position that you can balance in, trust me. And tip number 6, do not try to start balancing on demi-point if you cannot balance on a flat supporting leg, yeah? Once again, I understand that everyone is super eager to take that next step and balance on demi-point, and it looks good and it feels like you're working really hard because it's a much harder position to balance in. A lot of beginners maybe are in a mixed class and they see other students balancing on demi-point, but I want you to remember that balancing on demi-point is very difficult. It is a big step forward and you need to have built the proper strength in your legs before you can do that. Because otherwise, you're going to do it. It's probably not going to work very well, which means you will feel bad about yourself. You have the potential to hurt yourself if your legs are not strong enough. And it's probably going to take you way longer to actually improve step by step because you skipped that important first phase, which is balancing on a flat supporting leg, yeah? So don't pay attention to what other people are doing in a ballet class. If you're in a mixed class, you have to do your own thing. And the test here is this, simple. If you can balance in a nice, let's take retiré for example, yeah? Nice retiré position on a flat supporting leg. You can easily let go of the bar. You can stay there without any of the things that we've discussed in this video happening to you. You can perhaps move your arms up to fifth position and you can still balance there. That is great. Then you know that you are ready to start exploring the same retiré balance position on demi-point. If, however, you find yourself struggling balancing on the flat supporting leg, then you just need a little bit more time. And that is completely fine because, as I've said many times before, there's a reason as to why professional dancers study ballet for like 8 to 9 years before they even think about auditioning for ballet companies, yeah? In most cases at least. So don't feel ashamed if you cannot balance on demi-point immediately. It would be crazy if you could. It would be super impressive. For most people, that is not the case. So practice all of your balances on the flat supporting leg. At the same time, you can still focus on strengthening those legs and preparing them for those demi-point positions with all of your usual foot strengthening exercises, plus the must-do exercise for all ballet dancers, professionals, non-professionals, which is calf raises. To start with, you should do calf raises on both feet at the same time, on both legs at the same time. So you're in parallel and you do your calf raises with straight legs. And then when you get good at them, you can move on and do the same thing, again on a parallel leg, on one leg. But I would really strongly advise you not to rush to the demi-point positions if you cannot balance on a flat supporting leg. Balancing in turnout does not appear overnight. It is built through strong technique, consistent training, and awareness of your body. These 6 tips made a huge difference for me, and they've also made a huge difference for a lot of my students. So I hope that you have found them beneficial. Try them out. Let me know in the comment section which ones you enjoyed the most. And if you like this video, guys, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, to subscribe to my channel, and to turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.